I'm the drug law reform candidate for the seat of Griffith, which is centred around the south side of Brisbane, just across the river. It includes suburbs like West End, goes to Holland Park, goes to Bulimba, and it's got 100,000 sort of people in it, so it's a huge electorate. The reason I'm standing is I think it's really important that we start to politically mobilise and learn how to do that. And I think you've got to plunge into it, and I applaud everyone else who's done it, such as Deb and Ray and great work. Yeah, Karen behind me.
Francis.
Oh, Francis. Oh. Okay, all these people are who are friends on Facebook who I don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think that's important, that we've got to get beyond the sort of Facebook campaign. And one of the things about standing for an election is it actually gives you a chance to intervene in the political process. Essentially, we are allowed once every 3 years to tick a few boxes to give us this government, which are basically bought by multinational corporations and do the work of multinational corporations. And this is so bad that I no longer support the regulation of cannabis. All I really want at the moment is the decriminalisation of cannabis. What I fear about regulation is that we're just going to get privatisation, because that's what the neoliberal ascendancy thinks regulation is. Regulation is privatisation. And with privatisation's going to come enormous restrictions as to who is allowed to grow cannabis. It will be ideally for the politicians given to a few companies who will then donate generously to them for allowing that. And the war against cannabis will continue. And if you look at really the success of cannabis medicine in Australia over the past decade or so, it hasn't had anything to do with governments. Governments have opposed it all the way, and they're still going to oppose it. And although I do not disagree with people talking to them, I think you should expect to be sold down the river. I used to play cricket, and one of the things I learned about facing leg spin bowlers was to always play for the wrong end. And that's what I think you'll encounter a lot in this journey, that there will be a lot of wrong ends bowled at you. And the way forward has been, in places like Canada, is that people defied the law and they went ahead and did all these illegal activities. We had Dana Larson speaking in West End about a month ago from Canada, and what he talked about was how they'd built through a man called Mark Emery and Hemp BC, they'd built these businesses which did illegal things such as sold bongs and sold books on cannabis. And those people who did that, who tried to combine activity with businesses, to begin with they were arrested, but as they kept fighting, more and more people kept joining the cause. And it was that combination of civil disobedience, business and action that has helped the Canadians move forward to regulation. And I think that's what's happening with cannabis medicine. Like when I first started writing about cannabis medicine, which was probably 20 years ago, it was 22 years ago I think, then there wasn't very much cannabis medicine in Australia. And over the next decade or so, people largely centred in Nimbin, and the Nimbin Hemp Embassy has done a fantastic job in this regard. There were people like Tony Bauer who started to sort of illegally make their own cannabis medicines, and that's the way I think it's going now. It looks like there is a sort of business developing with medical cannabis, and the cannabis market as we know it has really changed in the past decade. It's gone from being a recreational market to where a substantial medical market now exists, and I think that medical market's going to grow bigger and bigger, because what we've now got is a sort of baby boomer generation reaching the age where they are going to, get subjected to the diseases of age and cancers and things like that. And I think they're far more ready to take up cannabis medicines because they were the generation which first took up cannabis recreationally. And so I see this huge growth in cannabis medicines coming, but it's going to come to begin with as an illegal industry. And I think we've got to be prepared for that and realise that that's the way it will go, that it isn't going to be government suddenly deciding, oh gee, we've been lying about cannabis for 8 decades, sorry. We've been lying about cannabis for 8 decades and now we've seen the truth and we're going to change. I don't think that's the process which is going to happen. It's going to have to be, activity going on, and the activity is going on because people are desperately sick. They're being offered these medicines which don't work, and they're turning to cannabis in droves. And the cannabis medicine industry is emerging in a really big way, and it will continue to emerge in the next decade or so. So I think that's, we've got to be fairly realistic about this and recognise that we're going to be an underground movement, and we have to defend those of us in the underground movement who face court and face all those sorts of things which will come their way, but it will go forward that way. Now I should say that next Sunday I'm having my campaign launch for Griffith. It's going to be at 174 Boundary Street, West End, at the Kurilpa Hall, which is next to the library there. The library's got the town clock in West End. It's where the old West End town council used to meet before they amalgamated in 1925. So it's a sort of standout building in West End. Kurilpa Hall is next door. So if you head towards the clock tower, which is the library, that's where the meeting is. It's next door. It starts at 2 o'clock. Deb's going to speak, and
Sunday, yes.
And Lorraine,
yes.
Lorraine,
as far as I know, Lorraine will be there as well.
Yeah.